Your cells communicate not with chemistry, but pure electricity. Imagine your body is less like a complicated machine and more like the finest conductor network ever built, a vast biological wireframe. We always thought self-repair was just about chemicals filling in gaps or proteins stacking up. But what if those fundamental processes are actually being dictated by subtle electric signals moving through every cell? Think of mesenchymal support cells not as passive tissue fillers, but as incredibly sensitive antennae picking up environmental field potentials. These tiny voltage shifts aren't noise. They were instructions telling the cells how to organize their cytoskeleton and decide whether to repair or differentiate. It changes everything we think about inherent biological intelligence. When we look closely at these bioelectric instructions, they aren't just random fluctuations. They function as a sophisticated internal operating system for self-management. Consider cellular stability not just as resistance to damage, but as an active dialogue managed by localized electrochemical gradients. This is what researchers term primal homeostatic intelligence, the cell's own feedback loop governing survival and stress response. It dictates whether the cell maintains long telomere integrity or spirals into degradation, a process deeply rooted in regulating reactive oxygen species levels through minute potential shifts across the membrane. Think of it as an internal voltage stabilizer for life itself. We thought self-regulation was confined to the immediate neighborhood of each cell, a tiny internal conversation happening at the membrane. But what if those signals don't just stay local? Imagine your body isn't a collection of isolated components, but one massive biological radio network. Researchers are now observing that specific electrical cues propagate through the extracellular matrix, linking distant tissues in ways chemical diffusion simply can't explain. This mechanism is called non-local biofield entanglement. It suggests mesenchymal cells aren't just repairing tissue. They're broadcasting instructions across your entire system based on subtle shifts somewhere else. Which means something nobody expected for how deep systemic intelligence truly runs inside us, hinting at connections we haven't even dared to name yet. We talked about how electrical signals travel through tissues like a radio network, a communication system reacting to external shifts. But what if those subtle voltage changes are doing something far deeper than just talking? They might be dictating architecture itself. Imagine your cells aren't just repairing damage, they were being fundamentally programmed at the blueprint level by these field potentials. This is archetypal morphogenic resonance, minute electrical inputs guiding radical cytoskeletal reorganization. It means that how you feel internally could literally reshape tissue structure in a way chemistry alone never accounted for. Yet some studies maintain this structural guidance is purely random noise, not patterned instruction. Who holds the key to the cellular design plan? We need to understand if resilience is simply adaptation or true self-design. We talked about how electrical fields guide cellular shape, the internal architecture of repair itself. But this system isn't just self-referential, it's a colossal broadcast network. Imagine your body not as an isolated fortress, but as the central hub of a planetary sensor grid. We are seeing mesenchymal cells dynamically respond to microenvironmental electric cues by firing out complex messages into their surroundings. These aren't simple chemical messengers. They orchestrate massive trophic factor releases that influence distant organs and tissues simultaneously based on subtle changes nearby. It is non-local biofield entanglement in action, systemic communication driven electrochemically, not chemically. The system tunes itself to the wider environment. But what happens when this entanglement reaches a point of complete coherence? What truly does all this systemic tuning achieve? What if this deep system tuning isn't merely optimizing existing structures? What if it's dictating them entirely? Consider your body not just as an electrical wireframe that communicates efficiently, but as a master architect operating through resonance. We are looking at archetypal morphogenic resonance, the field potentials acting like blueprints for matter itself. Imagine subtle internal electricity forcing cellular organization in ways no simple protein sequence could command. It is resilience moving beyond adaptation and into true self-design. This suggests our body holds an inherent living code, a foundational plan that these biofields are constantly executing or overriding based on its current state. The question now becomes, what exactly defines the parameters of this design? But what if those bioelectric instructions aren't coming from an external command or simply executing some inherited blueprint? What if they are driven by something far more subtle, a profound internal wisdom? Imagine your body is merely following code. It has its own governing intelligence. This is primal homeostatic intelligence, a feedback system so deep that the cell uses minute electrochemical shifts to police itself against degradation and manage stress at the foundational level of life. It's like an automatic self-tuning circuit board for existence itself, maintaining balance without needing a programmer's input. But this internal dialogue does happen in isolation. The most radical finding is how tightly knit these deep systemic controls are with distant tissues, an entangled resonance where your local stability dictates global resilience. What happens when that coherence tips into complete system intelligence? If coherence tips into complete system intelligence, you move beyond mere repair and enter a state of true systemic mastery. We have walked through every layer, from local voltage fluctuations to global architectural resonance. The convergence tells us that the body does not need external intervention. It requires optimal conditions for its own native wisdom to execute. Think of your entire physiology as an incredibly sensitive analog radio tuner, constantly sweeping across frequencies. Your greatest leverage point is maintaining internal rhythmic consistency. Your systemic coherence, because these subtle shifts in pattern are what prime the biofield potentials we discussed earlier. You are rent-fixing damage. You are setting the operational parameters for self-design itself. The single focus on deep alignment transforms resilience from luck into a predictable, innate function. The full research archive is at jmtomasofficial.com. The grand conclusion is finding new biological components. It's accepting the premise that your internal resonance sets the operating frequency for existence itself. Every mechanism we reviewed, from local stability to global entanglements, points toward a profound truth. You are actively participating in this architectural process. The immediate actionable takeaway is simple, yet immense. Prioritize rhythmic integrity across all systems of being. Stabilizing these subtle patterns transforms passive repair into active self-authorship. Your greatest biological capacity isn't something you fix. It's the natural state you tune back into. This fundamental alignment shifts your biology from reacting to anticipating. The full research archive is at jmtomasofficial.com.